Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. Not Beware of Spoilers, Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam, and we're here today to talk about the 4th episode of Skeleton Crew. Yeah, because this is the 3rd week, 4th episode. And there were 2 episodes week 1. So, I don't know. I don't hate the idea of this being kind of a filler episode, but, I think the issue is, the way I would have done this show is a little bit differently, and I think that, again, we're in one of the situations where I'm stuck between, I can't really fault the show for not doing what I would have, because that's not fair, because it's not like, I'm not the showrunner, and that. That said, what I would have done with this show is kind of laid out the mystery, probably by the end of episode 2. By the end of episode 1, we have the team together. By the end of episode 1, we have left At-Atten. We're on a ship, going out, and we meet Crimson Jack out on this, out on, whatever that pirate area was. That is where I would have started out. The issue is, and then you get to the bird Kim, who, if you watch it with subtitles, has probably the most ridiculous spelling of the name Kim I've ever heard. It's like KHY_HMM or HYMM or something like that, and I'm like, just, okay, if you're gonna do that, why call her Kim? And then it's like, you lay out this mystery. No one knows where At-Atten is. At-Atten is rumored to be holding some kind of treasure, but we have no idea what it is, but no one knows what it is, and because of that, it was one of the jewels of the Old Republic. And we don't know where it is, but we have a series of places that could kind of give you a sense of where you're going. And they might be able to do it. We know one of the places that was similarly one of these jewels of the Old Republic, that person would have, that would have been, what the fuck? That I think would have been a better way to kind of handle this. But unfortunately, the show doesn't do that. The show kind of just lays you kind of sort of at the mercy of like, well, now we're going to watch and now we're going to, we think we found the way, but that's not the case. And like, they get to this other world, and this is one that is exactly like Ad-Atten, or it's like At-Action or something like that. Like, they all have similar names, all these other worlds. And this one, was taken over, and you can tell by what's there that, like, the time that this happened was around the time of the Clone Wars, because, they have the clone transport that they've co-opted and they're using, and it's just like, oh, that's so this world was found by the war. It's an interesting thing, and I think the thing is too, the reveal of Nick Frost's robot being, whoever the captain is of that ship being like, oh, we have to, kill that. I feel like that's kill anyone who tries to find Ad-Atten if you're around them. Like, that feels like something that would have been better served later on in the series, kind of revealing, not right now at episode 4. Like, that's something that should have been like episode 7 or episode 8. But yeah, I think like everything with the kids are starting to grow on me, and that was something that kind of took a little bit. I think that like what's her name, Fern, has probably the best arc in this episode, where it's like she's starting to come to terms with the fact that she's not perfect, and she's not she's not exactly what she thought she was in terms of like her abilities and all that. And I really like that this character is going through that. And I think the girl playing her does a great job of doing that. Even like Neil, who I like have felt like not annoyed at, but it's like he feels kind of like a cardboard cutout. Has grown on me a little bit. There were a few lines in this that I was like, let's just take a step back and rework these a little bit, because it's like there's a naivete to it, but it's like having a kid say it makes it sound like it's the writer trying to make a kid say this incredibly obvious thing, and it's like, it's like it's a take on war, where it's like, why don't we just go and make peace? Why are we going to keep fighting? Like, but like to have the kid have this issue, have this comment, it feels a little bit odd. But look, I think the show would have been better served being a slightly different version of the same thing. But we take the show at face value. We don't take the show at what we would have done. We take the show at what it is presented to us as. And I think there's plenty. There's a lot of interest, and I think too it's like the relationship between I'm going to keep calling him Jack at this point, because I think it's like Jod or something like that. But it's like the relationship between Jack and or didn't call him Jude Law, him and the kids is something that like this episode really was, kind of endearing. Like the way that he goes and saves them, and they're like, oh, thank God he saved us, and it's like, the way that whole relationship's kind of portrayed there is really, it's kind of cute and heartwarming. And then there's also like, even like, oh, you spent all the Republic credits, okay, but we're alive, so let's just let this go, I guess. And then also there's what was the other thing that they did in the episode? Like him saving them when they get there. Now, I think the thing is too, it's like, and this is again, I think the problem with this show being the way it is, where part of the core of this is this mystery of what's going on in Ad-Atten. Like, what's going on there is as much a mystery as it is as anything else is, let's be honest. Like, that's like, arguably it's the biggest mystery. Not what's on Ad-Atten, but like what's going on there. That they're still using Old Republic credits. They're isolated out from the rest of the galaxy. They're behind this nebula, so they can't get out past the nebula. unless they luck out with hyperspace. But it's this idea that, like, okay, so we are dealing with a person who, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, the core issue that comes from this is this idea that, like, we didn't get enough of a sense of what's going on Atatin, because, like, nothing we really saw there was amazingly out of left field in terms of, like, what they're doing in terms of education or government structure or anything like that. Like, to the point that after episode 1 I'm watching and I'm like, oh, so this is just how the New Republic runs things. And if that was the thing where I'm like, oh, so if the New Republic is running things this way, that's just continuing kind of what the Empire did. So when we get to, you know, the rise of the First Order, it's again people being like, well, what's the point of why did we switch away from the Empire? Like, you know, our price of milk and eggs were cheaper under the Empire, and now, you know, with you know, now that we have the, you know, the election is here, why don't we guys vote for the First Order? Because, yeah, the Empire was building a giant super weapon to try and kill us all, but, you know, I didn't pay as much for my milk and eggs. So by the time, like, that's kind of what I thought it was, you know, joking aside. Then it turns out that it's like, oh no, this is just a society that's been completely cut off since before since before the New Republic, before the Empire even took over, perhaps even longer than that. I would say this is probably something that was around during the Republic, but, like, the idea that this was entirely isolated out and really separated out is one of those things that's like, you know, they didn't do a good enough job of setting apart why this planet is so bad. Because, like, even, like, the classroom, the way the classroom was laid out and the way that everyone's dressed and all of that, it looks like the classroom that Grogu was hanging out in The Mandalorian. And it's like, well, you're not doing enough to tell me why, to show me what's going on here. So, like, things that, like, oh, that's the supervisor's tower, no one's allowed up there. And it's like, oh, that would have been good information to have, like, before this episode. Because before this episode, we don't have that information. We're just kind of, like, you know, dealing with whatever it seems like is the case going into it. It's an odd, like, it's a really weird kind of situation going on. That I'm just like, I don't know, like, I think what it is, like the issue is, it's like, I still think whatever it is on Atatin that was being shrouded off is some kind of incredibly powerful weapon, like what's that thing called in that Marchion Ro has, the leveler, is that what it's called? The fucking, you know, or like the Blight or something like that, like the last remnant of the Blight. Like, that's something that they have in play on this planet, and that's why it's isolated out and kept to itself. There's this idea that, like, they're protecting this thing, and that's why it's so important, and that's why people are so urgently trying to get to it. Like, you have all these planets that are kind of similar. At Aten, at Atchen, at you know, at Attila, at, you know, at Ultima. Like, you have all these different planets that are just kind of, like, similarly named, and all look the same aesthetically, yet there's no real explanation as to why this is the case and what the benefit is of this. So I think that the thing's going to be, it's like, look, they had something that they were trying to keep secret from the rest of the galaxy. They had something dangerous, they had something powerful, something on Atatin is there. So they did a three-card Monty with it, where you create 75 planets that all have similar names, one of which is holding the thing you're trying to keep, the thing you're trying to figure out. And if that's the case, if that's what we're going to be going to on this, then whatever's there isn't just a fuck ton of money or a fuck ton of jewels or something like that. whatever's there is going to be a weapon of some kind. And again, we're talking about this show in the context of the wider Star Wars universe. It's not simply, this is just a show. Because again, if it was the case, they wouldn't have put in the guy who's always showing up, the Ranger of the New Republic who's constantly showing up in the last episode. This is very clearly, okay, it is the Mandalorian. They wouldn't have set the timeline so specifically, like, this is the same time that Din Djarin and fucking Grogu are gallivanting across the galaxy trying to, just, going on adventures, having a blast, getting into jams, that kind of thing. The whole thing is just, everything is for a reason, and if not everything is for a reason, then we have to reevaluate how we're telling this overarching story. Because again, I said this before when I talked about on 30-minute reviews, Chuck Wendig complaining about working within Star Wars and being like look, yes, you're a writer and you have free reign to do what you want within your confines of the story, but at the same time, you are working on a contract basis when you're working for them. They have their overarching story, allegedly, that they're trying to, keep things in line with. And that's something that they need to, everything needs to, go to service this larger story. So this idea that, we're going to sit here and be dealing with, what overarching story is this serving? And it, again, could go either way. It could be it's serving the story of New Jedi Order, and this is introducing something that's going to be that Rey's going to have to deal with. It could be going to serve Heir to the Empire, in which this is something that Ahsoka's going to have to deal with, or something like that. That's kind of the weird place that this movie puts you in. The show's putting you in. I'm sorry. The idea that we're not 100% certain what master is being served. It's interesting, but I kind of just want to, there's a treasure on Ad-Atten is not quite as interesting as what the treasure is. Making Ad-Atten into this, the way they've kind of laid out the mystery box is kind of intriguing. But again, if it's just a lot of money, I don't know. Or, look, the alternative is it's sitting right in front of our face. And the treasure of Ad-Atten is that it is the U.S. Mint of the Old Republic. And that's just where they mint the credits. That could very well be it. I don't think Ad-Atten is inherently evil. I think that they're just, I don't think that there's the Sith are running it and they are doing this thing. No, I think it's going to be if that's going to be something similar, they want what's on Ad-Atten. That they're trying to get what's on Ad-Atten. And then if that's the case, they're going to, go to great lengths to get what's on Ad-Atten. And maybe they'll succeed, maybe not. But I think there's a real chance this show ends kind of like Ahsoka, but arguably, hopefully, it ends better than Ahsoka. Because I think the ending of Ahsoka with the return, okay, we have left behind what's her name, Ahsoka and Sabine have been left behind on this what's it called on whatever the fuck that planet was in the next galaxy over. See, having the transition from who I was talking about is throwing me off. But Ezra's back, and it's Ezra, that moment with Ezra being back, but also Thrawn is back. That's the thing they don't really address, is that Thrawn is also back. That moment that Ezra returns is too positive. I think it should have been like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Harry returns with the corpse of Cedric Diggory. And he's just despondent, he's sitting over the square, he's back, Voldemort's back. It should have been Hulk being thrown through the sanctum by, what's his name, by Heimdall, and him just, de-hulking and saying to, Strange and Wong, Thanos is coming. it should have been that, and maybe that's what this show could end up being. This moment of like, Thrawn has gotten his hands on something very dangerous, or there is something very dangerous on this planet that someone has gotten their hands on. Because again, if it is just that this planet has the mint, it's just where they're minting the money, then they don't take Republic currency. Like, that was literally the first thing we're greeted with in The Mandalorian, is this idea of like, okay, what currency do we take? Do we take Imperial credits? Do we take New Republic credits? Do we take Mon Cal credits? It's like, you know, there's this big confusion over what currency the galaxy is taking. It's a period of upheaval. And it's this idea that like, oh, so we're going to sit here and try to figure out what the period of upheaval is. It's just kind of a, like, I don't think anywhere, like, I think they would take it only because, like, they're pirates, but, like, I don't think there's, like, if you go to like, Star Wars Walmart, I don't think you can walk in with, like, hi, I have Old Republic credits. That'd be like me walking in with, like, you know, Confederate money and being like, hi, I have this. I'm sure that you'd still take this, right? Like, no, it's, you know, that's not it. Or better yet, probably the better example would be like if you walked into Germany now and tried to pay with the currency they used before the Nazi regime. Like if you walked in with like credits from the Weimar Republic, or, you know, currency from the Weimar Republic, they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't think that like most legitimate places would take that. I think that there's value in it because it looks to be like pure gold, and there's definitely value in gold in the Star Wars universe, but we'll see. But on that note, we will wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be next week as we talk about the next episode. What was the other thing we have to do? Josie will be back at some point in the near future. We're going to be wrapping up we're seeing how we did on our predictions at the end of last year and making next year's predictions for Star Wars. But until the next episode, have a great rest of your week.